Every 4 years, the presidential race becomes the center of the American story, simplified into a single high-stakes contest. 2 people enter, and 1 person wins. Then the midterms arrive. The national stage clears, and the attention surrounding those 2 names is replaced by a sudden, jarring silence. Without a single national showdown to watch, the election feels fragmented. It looks like hundreds of smaller races scattered across the country, often treated as background noise compared to the spectacle of the White House. This creates a strange contradiction in American politics. The elections that voters often ignore are the very ones designed by the Constitution to distribute federal power. The presidential vote fills the seat, but the midterms dictate the scope of the winner's authority. On November 3, 2026, the general election will decide every seat in the House of Representatives and roughly 1/3 of the Senate. Donald Trump will not appear on a single one of those ballots. Even with his name missing from the paper, the election serves as a decision on the limits placed around his administration. This vote determines the legislative environment for his final 2 years, whether he manages a Congress that advances his agenda or challenges his policies. A president can direct federal agencies and issue executive orders, but a president cannot pass laws alone. Every major policy is ultimately subject to the legislative branch. Political power changes through thousands of invisible switches being flipped inside the government, rather than through a single dramatic moment. The legislative branch regulates laws, funding, and nominations. When the president's party controls Congress, these locks remain unturned, allowing policies to pass freely. When the opposition takes control, locks snap shut, funding is restricted, and policies stall in months of hearings. This system depends on the people holding these offices. Checks and balances only function if politicians are willing to prioritize their institutional duty over loyalty to a political party. Because the Constitution did not trust any one person to hold all power, a congressional majority serves as the primary throttle on the executive branch. The scale of the 2026 election is vast. Voters will decide 435 House seats and roughly 1/3 of the Senate. The map is highly targeted. Republicans defend narrow majorities, while Democrats target 58 specific House districts. Current data highlights the challenge. An August poll placed Trump's approval at 35%, and generic congressional preference shows Democrats leading Republicans 42% to 37%. Because these margins of control are so narrow, the balance of the federal government will be decided by a small number of voters in districts most Americans have never heard of. The 2026 election is less a popularity contest for a single leader and more a choice about the structure of the government itself. It is a referendum on whether voters want anyone in Washington capable of telling the president no. The outcome will determine the direction of economic, immigration, and foreign policies, as well as judicial appointments that will remain in place long after every campaign sign has disappeared. The spectacle of the presidential race draws the highest turnout, but the results of these scattered midterm races determine which policies are even possible. Democracy's greatest vulnerability may not be that people are forbidden from participating. It may be that the most consequential parts of the system are made to feel too boring to notice.